see. Sure, we're live. Looks like we're good.
Perfect.
All right, hello everyone. My guest today is, and thank you for tuning in. I know this was a last minute decision to go live, but Dave was kind enough to agree to it. So a special treat for all of you. Dave Asprey is the founder and chairman of Bulletproof. He's a 3-time New York Times bestselling author, host of a Webby Award-winning podcast called Bulletproof Radio, and has been featured on Today Show, CNN, New York Times, Dr. Oz, and many more. Over the last 2 decades, Dave, the father of biohacking, has worked with world-renowned doctors, researchers, scientists, global mavericks to uncover the latest, most innovative methods, techniques, and products for enhancing mental and physical performance. Dave has personally spent nearly $2 million taking control of his own biology, pushing the bounds of human possibility in the name of science and evolution, and to live to 180, which we'll talk about. The creator of the Bulletproof Diet, the innovator of Bulletproof Coffee, collagen protein, supplements, and many more advances in commercial wellness products. Dave's mission is to empower the entire globe with information and knowledge that unlocks the superhuman in everyone at any age. The proof of these advancements are better sleep, energy, and expanded capacity for all. Be a better partner, parent, provider, and overall human being in every aspect of life. Through the Bulletproof Diet, he has maintained a 100-pound weight loss, improved his sleep, upgraded his brain, ultimately transforming himself into a better entrepreneur, a better husband, and a better father. Dave has helped hundreds of thousands of people perform at levels far beyond what they'd expect without burning out or getting sick. In addition to hosting Bulletproof Radio, a Web Award-winning podcast, Dave is currently serving as the founder and CEO or chairman of 6 health wellness biohacking companies. I mean, that was a mouthful. Super accomplishments. Dave Asprey, welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, man. I'm actually changing my my ringtone to be a coughing sound just to mess with people. What do you think?
It's good. And especially with all the health that you preach. It's good to have a coughing.
It totally works, right?
And today's time with COVID, that's going to go really well.
Got to trigger people.
So much to dive into, so little time. So let's kind of start here. How did you start or go on the journey of starting the Bulletproof Empire?
Man, an empire. That's such a fancy word.
We're fancy here.
What I really want to do is just to help people. And there's a kind of entrepreneur who says, I want to go make money. And there's a kind of entrepreneur who says, I want to go make something that doesn't exist and get paid to do it. Just a different mindset. So when I started Bulletproof, I'd spent 15 years running an anti-aging nonprofit group for fun and to learn how to hack my biology from people who were more knowledgeable and more experienced than I was, to gain the knowledge and really to put in the time and do the work and become a real expert. It's vanishingly easy, by the way, if you want to start a health company right now, a health blog, just copy everyone else's stuff. I mean, there's people who've made a name for themselves in biohacking. You probably know what I'm talking about, who've like literally every post I've done, they copied for the first 3 or 4 years of their brand. You're like, nice work, right? The question is, what did you add to the body of knowledge? You didn't. Now, if you want to be like a supporter cheerleader of the paleo movement or something like that, like great. Like there's 5,000 paleo blogs and they're all like, okay, here's our community movement. If you're like, I'm going to take over the community and I'm going to, copy from Healthline or, any of the other sites, you got to watch that. For me, I'm like, I hate that stuff because I used to work out an hour and a half a day, 6 days a week, and I weighed 300 pounds and it didn't work. And I was tired all the time and I made myself sicker by these ridiculous, I'll, be a raw vegan, which doesn't work, by the way. It works great if you're under 25 and you're willing to burn out your biology so you can pay for it later, stuff like that. So I basically said, I'm just going to really study and measure what works. And when I find out what works, I'm just going to share. And no one would believe that butter in your coffee would do this. No one would believe how important certain fats were versus other ones. So I did it and I helped hundreds of thousands of people for free while I was a vice president at a large publicly traded computer security company. And I funded Bulletproof. A lot of people don't know this. A hedge fund, a bank, flew me around the world to meet with the people who run hedge funds to teach them how to make themselves smarter. And they used me as bait. Like at an old style computer trade show, they used to have this thing called a booth babe. And what this was, companies would hire like attractive women so that people would come up to the trade show and just be like, oh, I naturally want to talk to this. And these are male dominated industries. So they would do that, and now we've gotten past those days. But basically, I was a booth babe for hedge fund managers, saying you can live longer and you can be smarter and faster. So then they would basically let us into the building. And I took all the money that the banker paid me and I used it to pay someone else to do the stuff that I didn't have time to do because I was a dad and I had a full-time job and I was starting this little blog that I just wanted to help. And then I said, I want to build stuff. I want to make stuff no one else can sell me. So I made coffee with no mold toxins because I was throwing away good coffee. It tasted good, but it made me feel like crap. So finally I solved that problem for myself. Market size for performance mold-free coffee, 0. Today, functional coffee is a category that's worth more than $100 million. Bulletproof has been awarded by Forbes, actually, one of the top 20 most disruptive brands or innovative brands. I forget which one. Okay, that's pretty cool. And another thing, collagen protein. No one talked about collagen protein. I was the guy who put collagen on the map. $100+ million category. Didn't exist as a category, probably not more than a couple $1,000,000, except as like a, to make gel caps or something. And then MCT oil. Who's ever heard of MCT oil? Well, I'm the guy who put MCT on the map, and now it's $100+ million category, and we're the market leader in that. And all of these things, I couldn't buy it, or the stuff I could buy didn't work. It wasn't the right quality. I'll do it. But all that stuff, I funded it. I bootstrapped it up to north of $20 million in revenue off of basically a month of consulting work. That's how I got started.
Wow. Let's talk about it for a second, because we're taught as entrepreneurs, like, don't try to carve out a whole niche, right? Go where there's a market and learn where there's a market. And you kind of went the exact opposite.
Did you say you were taught as a lemming or as an entrepreneur? I wasn't sure I heard you right.
Fair point. Good point.
No, seriously. Okay. Yeah. What you're taught as an entrepreneur is go steal someone else's shit. Like, oh, go hunt where all the other people are hunting. Asshole. Like, seriously, that market need is met. Don't do that. That makes you a thug. It makes you a copycat, and it makes you a thief. Solve a new problem or go to work for a real entrepreneur. Straight up.
Wow, raw. Love it.
I mean, that's what it is. If you're not doing something new and better and different, and there's like 14 people out there now, it's like, oh, look, I put butter in my coffee. I invented this new brew. I'm like, everyone knows you didn't invent that, right? What did you do to make the world a better place? Or, oh, I'll do it for a little bit cheaper, but I'm not going to use grass-fed butter. I'm like, oh, what did you do? You took something and you made it not work, right? And you diluted this. And I've talked to the founders, the CEOs, the innovators of so many companies, both in tech, but more specifically in consumer packaged goods. You take a company like Vega. Okay, I don't believe in the vegan diet, but I believe in eating a lot of healthy plants. Right? There's a difference between those things. I also would never eat industrial meat. So what the heck do you call me? I don't really know. Bulletproof. Anyway, what happened to Vega is the same thing. Vega, however you want to say it. They come out there and they're like, okay, we have this innovative, green protein thing, and it's made from high quality products. Right? And then within 2-3 years, a whole bunch of other companies come out and they take your cheap Chinese ground up whatever stuff, right? And then they're selling it for less and people drink it and then they just get an upset stomach. They don't feel good. And then people say, oh, this green powder thing isn't a good category. And then the category starts to fail.
Yeah, because we're told don't reinvent the wheel, right? You don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Well, if the wheel already exists, yeah, right? But here's the thing. If you find a niche, right? It can be a niche for me, the niche was really straightforward. You know who no one ever talked to was executives, was people in Silicon Valley. Bulletproof was originally called the Bulletproof Executive. No one ever talked to people like me. Like, you know what? You know how much I care about being a weekend warrior? I don't care. You know what I care about? I want to be smarter. I want to write better code. I want to be able to pay attention longer than anyone else. I want my brain to always work. And sure, I want abs, but I want the minimum possible amount of work it takes to make abs. Right? I do not want to spend 2 hours a day in the gym. I want to spend 2 hours a day talking to people about how to make a new future, how to create, how to change things. Right? So people would talk to, do you want to get swole? No, actually I don't. New York Times called me almost muscular. I'm like, mission accomplished, right? And you do that. And then you look at all these other things that are possible. And I'm saying, all right, it's that optimization thing that I really care about. And no one's ever spoken to me in a language like this. So I created a new language. You read any blog out there says, hack your health, hack your sleep. Guess who's the guy who said, hey, do that? I'm a computer hacker. I wrote that stuff. In fact, if you were to look at upgrade your health, all that kind of stuff, that is all original Bulletproof messaging that has just changed the way even doctors talk about their practice now. Where, do you want to be healthy? Seriously? You know what's to be healthy? Sick people. Do you want to kick ass? Gee, I think everyone wants to do that. And like, that's the difference in mindset. Like, how do you be more? So you do have to, as an entrepreneur, find a niche that isn't well served, or find a product that works better than everyone else. And I will tell you 100%, bulletproof coffee works better than regular coffee. If you take any cup of black coffee and you drink it and you measure your physiological parameters, you just do any test of cognitive function. There's a lot of little ones you can do on your phone. Okay. And then the next day, drink a cup of bulletproof coffee with the butter, with the brain octane, with the special beans, and measure the difference. There is a difference. In my book, The Bulletproof Diet, published in 2014, first big book on intermittent fasting. And I published a IRB approved study of cognitive function of coffee from a company with maybe a big green logo, just bought randomly around the country, versus bulletproof coffee with butter, without even brain octane. There was a statistically significant difference in that. So here you go, guys. You're going to spend $2 on a cup of coffee or whatever. Buy my coffee and see if there's a difference. And if you can feel a difference, it's better, right? What they teach entrepreneurs is that consumers are dumb. And if you just trick them enough, then you can go live on a beach. Okay. It's a complete lie. Consumers, they talk to each other. We have this thing called social media and email. Before that, it was like at church and at golf games, or whatever the heck we did before we had the internet. I've had my own computer since I was 8, and there aren't a lot of people who are 48 who are like that, but hey, that's me. So I don't know that whole world, but there was some kind of like meet space thing that we did. So because we can now talk with people about what works, stuff that works spreads like wildfire, and you can trick people. They taught me in business school at Wharton, like, hey, it's cheaper to spend $1 telling people that your product has high quality than it is to spend $1 making your product high quality. It doesn't work anymore. And if you don't believe me, go to Amazon. Okay. Everyone knows that Amazon has a huge amount of the stuff you used to buy at flea markets. Like, the quality of product on there has gone down. A lot of people don't buy clothes on Amazon anymore. I love Amazon. They do all kinds of cool stuff. I sell bulletproof coffee on Amazon, but the bar for quality has gone down and down and down. And when that happens, people notice. So what I think we're all doing now as entrepreneurs is reassessing that and saying, is what I'm doing good for my consumer? Is it good for my community? And if it is, you will have a loyal following who will knock down doors to support you. And if you make something that's cheaper, nastier, or is just a knockoff without even some improvements, what you're going to get is a few people who you can reach, and you'll be like, a few of the people I've met, like, oh, Dave, I just want 1% of your market share. I have this new idea for MCT oil and coffee. I'm like, look, don't deceive yourself. Why would you do that? You're taking from another entrepreneur. You're not helping the uplift all the entrepreneur community. And there's so many problems the world needs solved. My God, like every day you walk around, there's a problem in front of you all the time. And like, take Travis Kalanick, the guy who started Uber. I worked with Travis at the company where he was before Uber. So we were both in the same space called content distribution, companies like Akamai and things like that. And I know him, and what he did was very straightforward. I hate waiting for taxis. Taxis make you feel like a jerk and they smell bad. So like, I just have to solve this problem. It wasn't that hard to do it, right? Creating the business was really hard. And yeah, everyone knows Uber had all kinds of problems and cultural issues. Those are different. Those aren't entrepreneurial problems as much as they are scaling problems. And that's a different issue, with you want to be the scrappy startup. Do you want to have a couple employees? Do you want to go up to 10 million? Do you want to go to 25? Do you want to go to 50, go to 100? There's very different skills that you need to do that. And I'm one of the relatively rare people who's gone past 100 million from a company that I founded. But man, there's a lot of lessons to be learned there. And you only learn those lessons in 2 places. One is by doing it, and the other one is by hanging out with other people who've done it more than you and having them tell you what to do. And I'm very lucky that I've had the opportunity to do the second one. And that's very important for entrepreneurs.
Which is why I love this podcast called Perfectly Mentored, because it brings people like you to everyone else. You say your body's not meant to be running the way we're running it. Can you go a little bit deeper on that?
Oh, yeah. Well, especially if you have that entrepreneur mindset, like the hustle, the grind. I mean, Gary Vee's been on my show on Bulletproof Radio, and I admire him, and I've seen him live and all, and he pushes really hard. And there's something true about that, where there's the voice in your head, especially when you're young, And it's sort of like, well, I'd rather just go and have some drinks and, go hang out with these really attractive other human beings because I kind of have a lot of hormones right now. And like, seriously, I'm sort of distracted. Plus, I have no rent. So, the how do I make it go? I can tell you, when I was 23, I sold the first thing that was ever sold over the internet. It was a t-shirt that said caffeine, my drug of choice. Right. And so there's something about hustling. There's something about running really hard. But what I ended up doing was saying, screw this noise. I'm going to start a company. I'm going to do that while I work full time. Right. And I ended up not sleeping enough. You're drinking coffee, staying up late. And what we do is when we're young, we burn the candle at both ends, basically so we can get laid. Right. You do that and have enough money to do that, and have enough money to do whatever else seems important to you, and maybe a little bit to invest in your company and all this stuff. And maybe you like have a bunch of discipline, you wake up and you meditate, you drink your coffee, right? And you do these things and you light a candle and you do your yoga class, like, all right, I'm ready, right? But then distractions happen, and then social media, and then you beat yourself up and you haven't learned how to control the voice in your head. So you run yourself hard, you stay up late, you do your work, and you go through this little treadmill. And eventually 5 years later, like, God, like, I think I might be pudgy and I think I have pleats in my pants and, this isn't what I wanted, but I don't really have a lot of money for it. And then you're confused and you feel guilty and shame and all that kind of stuff. Well, you got to work on that voice in your head because it's what's running you the wrong way. And I didn't really get any even awareness that I had a voice like that until I was 30. I think it's happening earlier and earlier. And we have this generation of entrepreneurs who's willing to do the personal development work up front. And when you do that, you realize, wait a minute, there's an ROI on sleep and I can measure that. There's an ROI on nutrition and I can measure that. And if I just pick the right food, I pick the right sleep, and I do a little bit of stuff before I go to bed and a couple things in the morning without worrying about perfection, I get 50% more energy during the day. And then I have enough energy to do a day job if necessary, enough energy to hustle, enough energy to get laid, and still have something left for my company and my mission and enough energy to stay focused. Right. And I'm being a little bit crass about that.
Yeah.
There's 3 voices in your head that drive you before you can think about them. And it's like, am I safe? And that's the voice that makes you defend yourself and run away from scary things and fight. It's the fear word. And that's the strongest. The next one is food. We've all died of famines as a species, like our ancestors, some of them did. And so we're terribly afraid of it at a cellular level way before we can think about it. So, okay, is anything scary in the room right now? What's for lunch? Okay, those took up your energy before you could be an entrepreneur. And the third thing is, wait, if I don't reproduce the species right now, the whole species could die. Okay, is there anything scary? Thank God, no. Is there anything to eat? Maybe. Is there anything to have sex with? Maybe. Okay, all humans run that operating system before we can think. And you have to have the discipline to control those things and do the stuff in your environment to turn down those things or to gain control of that. Otherwise, you don't get to start your company until you've dealt with those voices in your head. And you can set aside 70% of your cognitive abilities to basically create little firewalls against all those thoughts and 30% to focus on your company. Or you can turn down the yelling that basically says, eat me, run away from me, and ask me out on a date. And if you can just control that, you won't run yourself like crazy. But that's the thing they don't teach you in entrepreneur school.
So then, people listening, then they sit there and say, okay, I hear you. I want to optimize. I want to become better. But there's so many different things to read, so many different things to go after. Someone who doesn't have their own lab like you and has access to all the tools you have, what would you say are the essential starting points? Like, where would you start?
All right. I am going to shamelessly promote the Bulletproof Diet. Okay. I will not probably make a nickel from doing that. Just so you know, it will not change my life one bit, whether your listeners buy it or don't. I spent 15 years building the knowledge that went into that book. And here's what's happening. There's a huge number of foods that you think are healthy, and it's a lie. They're not healthy. They're not unhealthy. But there's food that's compatible with you that isn't compatible with me, and vice versa. So you've got to do the work to figure that out. And I remember grape nuts, the cereal? You ever eat a bowl of that stuff? So, man, it's so healthy. It's so good with skim milk and all that. I remember when I was, maybe like sometime a teenager, said, I'm going to do really well in this, soccer thing. So I ate a bunch of that stuff and it like wrecked my performance. I wonder what happened. Like that didn't seem to work very well. And of course it took years before I figured it out. That's not compatible with me. In fact, I don't think that's compatible with anyone. But maybe it works really well for you. So you got to just be aware your food has a direct impact on how you feel now and for the next at least 48 hours. So what I tell people to do in that book is, look, here's the food that makes everyone feel good. If you eat this stuff, you're probably going to rock it. And just don't eat the rest of the crap on the list for just a little while and see what you're capable of. Most people listening have never even done that. So the book is there. And if you don't even buy the book, just go to the Dave Asprey webpage, search for a Bulletproof Roadmap. And that roadmap is the entire book on one page for free. And okay, that'll work. And just try that. Okay. Second thing to do, skip breakfast. And that means you can have juice, you can have orange juice or some kind of thing like that. It's water or coffee or bulletproof coffee with no protein and no sugar. You can have no artificial sweeteners, but you can do stevia or something like that. And if you
we're told breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
You know, we're told a lot of other stuff, right? And you can try it or not. At this point, there's more than 1 million people fasting or doing intermittent fasting. And magic stuff happens in your biology. And if you do that, you can lose weight, but more, your brain just works. And you're like, I'm going to die. I'm going to be hungry, all this kind of stuff. Try it with bulletproof coffee. And this is fuel for your brain, but it doesn't raise your insulin. It doesn't give you cravings. You just won't even see the muffin or the donut that's right there in front of you at 10 a.m. when you normally open the fridge. Now everyone's working from home. So like, oh, I'm just going to go eat whatever. You just won't want to eat it. The voice will never distract you from your mission. And then around noon, you say, I guess I could eat, but I don't really need to. It's weird. And then around 2, you say, oh, I guess I'll have some stuff. If you do that, you end up eating in a 6 or 8 hour window. If you do that and you eat before the sun goes down for your last meal, just do it for a month. Even if you eat garbage during your eating window, the difference in how you look, how you feel, how you perform will be so big. And then before you go to bed, dim the lights in your house. You have a dimmer switch. If not, I'm going to also shamelessly plug one of the things I created, a company called True Dark. We make a set of patented glasses. These are the ones that relax your brain during the day. The ones for sleep, though, I've doubled my deep sleep. Literally twice as much return on my investment of having my eyes closed if I wear the glasses for an hour before bed. So every night you see me wearing these red glasses, and just red doesn't do it. There's 4 layers of filters in these things. But okay, you could do that. You could make sure your bedroom is blacked out. And okay, a lot of people, you're hustling. You don't want to spend a lot of money on stuff. Look, invest in curtains, because I guarantee you that those crappy curtains in your room let light around them. Study in Japan, 800 people. The amount of light that comes in around your curtains from normal street lights causes a 68% increase in depression. Look, your body, it has all sorts of automated stuff in it that you can't see or feel, but you can measure the results of. And you have huge amounts of light sensitivity. It doesn't take very much to mess with your sleep. So you're telling yourself, man, I'm working so hard and I went to sleep. I even went to bed on time, went to bed at 10:30. I'm taking good care of myself, but you turn on your bathroom LED lights and you brush your teeth. Sorry, you just trashed your sleep. That's just how it is. And I just had this one midnight snack. No, you trash your sleep. And the data, if you use an Oura ring, they cost like $400 there. I'm showing off mine. Maybe $300, whatever they charge for them. You'll know every single night. So there you go. The highest ROI you're going to get right now, track your sleep and skip breakfast. Those are cheap. They're simple. They're easy. And if you want to, go big, get some of the True Dark glasses. And yeah, I'm sorry I pitched some of the stuff that I own. Oh, by the way, I'm an advisor and investor in Aura too, just for full disclosure. It's just not going to change my life. I just want to change your life. Like I have enough. I just want to help.
I'll give you a perfect example. I get 8 to 10 hours of sleep. I'm in bed now by like 10 a.m. I'm up by like 6:30, whatever it is. I'm always tired during the day. Like
you want me to scare the crap out of you?
Do it.
Okay. Now I'm going to scare you. Study of 1.2 million.
Oh, I'll just interrupt you. I actually went for a sleep study just to see if everything's no sleep apnea, nothing was found.
Okay. And do you know how much deep sleep and how much REM sleep you get?
I have the number somewhere, but I don't know offhand.
Okay. You have to have an Oura ring. Like if you're investing in sleep studies and stuff like that, it's just time. You've just got to do that. So, but this largest sleep study, and this is one. I made everyone mad when I talked about this on my blog a while back. But this was data that was collected in the 1980s for 3 years. It was the only study with enough data points to tell you whether 6 hours is better than 6.5 hours, et cetera. And the data was so rich, they couldn't crunch it on computers back then. They had to wait till someone redid the data like in the mid 2000s. And what they found, and since then, 2 other studies have replicated this. People who live the longest sleep 6.5 hours a night. People who sleep 8 hours die more than people who sleep 6.5 hours. And people who sleep more than 8 hours have much higher risk of all-cause mortality. So if you need 8 to 10 hours of sleep to feel tired during the day, there's a reason for that. It's because you're not healthy. Like straight up. 8 hours is the maximum amount of sleep that you should need, unless you had some incredibly heavy workout, unless you're recovering from a disease, unless you just, broke up with your girlfriend or whatever. Like a real strong emotional or physical stressor is different, and you need extra recovery. But there could be all sorts of reasons for that. But if you're tired after all that, you should be tired after 10 hours of sleep. You're sick. And if after 8 hours of sleep, you're still tired and you do that regularly, either your sleep is garbage sleep. And I was there. It used to not matter how much I slept. I get 5 minutes of deep sleep and 15 minutes of dreams if I was lucky. I get at least an hour, and usually an hour and a half to 2 hours of deep sleep and REM sleep, because I control the light and I control the food and I have a dark sleeping environment. I do the other stuff. I take my handful of sleep supplements. I
have my phone next to me in bed, watch TV before bed.
Oh. Okay, just get the True Dark glasses, man. Hell, I'll send you a pair. Like, give me your address after this. And you're going to wear them every night while you're doing those things. And you're going to wake up and feel really different, right? And then you may have to address it. I could tell from looking at you, and now I'm just going to be really rude. I'm not judging you, but you have a little bit of inflammation going on, because you can see it like up here, right? And this, you're talking about a guy who used to weigh 300 pounds and has stretch marks. So like I've been like 10 times worse than that. And I can tell you, I didn't just have like one love handle on each side. I had like 3 or 4. It was not pleasant. I'm 10.3% body fat, and I work out probably less than you, right? So like, how does this work? And I'm not hungry, and I don't diet. I just eat good stuff. So this is what's possible. But I would say, how old are you?
38.
38. So you got to get on that. And the stuff that worked for you in your 20s doesn't work for you in your 30s. It's not going to. You've had these shifts. Your testosterone levels are probably lower than they need to be. But I'd be investing in an inflammation panel, a hormone panel, and for you, I'd be looking at your thyroid in particular. Do an advanced thyroid panel. Those 3 things will change your life. So if you need testosterone, get testosterone. You probably need thyroid. I'm just guessing. And, I would tell you, don't do that until you've had lab tests, obviously. And then the inflammation panel. If you have weird inflammation going on, all of these are things you need to hack. And they're hackable. If you're running a business, like, oh, look, my CAC is too high. My retention rate is too low. They're simple things. We just feel like we don't know what to put into the variables. And the body of work that I've done, if your brain's not working, read Headstrong. If you need to know how and what to eat to feel good all the time, read the Bulletproof Diet. And if you want to live to 180, read Superhuman. And these are like thousands and thousands of hours of research and distillation and compilation that take like 4 to 6 hours. If someone had given me this crap when I was 19 or when I was 25 or 35, whatever, it would have saved me like $1 million. It would have saved me so much suffering and all this stuff.
Would you have done it? I mean, like, fried food tastes so good, but yet you call fried food worse than cigarettes.
Well, that's what the data says, right? So I don't think I would have taken up smoking. I never did. But so what? So who cares if it tastes good, right? You know what tastes really good? Heroin, man, just a taste. Right? Like seriously, you're saying, oh, I'm going to have the discipline to start a company, but I can't say no to the tater tots. Are we actually having that conversation?
I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about it in general, the listener.
But if for everyone listening, it's not about guilt or shame. Like, why did I eat that? Here's why you ate that. There's a voice in your head that you haven't trained. It's amazing if you just say, I'm going to go 3 days without food. I'm working on my book on fasting right now. And if you do that, there's a voice in your head that will just tell you, even when I said that, most people felt revulsion and fear. It takes you at least 2 months and probably 6 months to starve to death. You're not going to die, but man, that voice in your head is lying to you. And then it drives all these behaviors, and people put those, whatever your trigger food is in front of you, French fries. I'm just going to have a couple. You're no different than the cigarette person who says, I gave up smoking 2 days ago, but I'm just going to have just a couple hits. It's the same thing. Just don't do it for a few days and then watch what happens, and just watch how you feel. Watch how your brain lights up and go, all right, I got this. And it's that level of discipline. And it's not to say you're never going to do it, but when you realize what you're capable of doing biologically, you don't want to give that up, because having a brain that effortlessly pulls words from your memory, words that used to not show up for you, or having a brain that just feels like, oh yeah, I've got this. And knowing that even if you're in your car and you're doing 150 miles an hour in the middle of the night on a safe road, of course, and you push the accelerator and there's still more to go, you could accelerate faster, but you're scared to go faster. That's how your brain is supposed to work. And it doesn't work that way for most people. And it didn't work that way for me most of my life. But I can tell you, if you want to start multiple companies, all my companies are doing pretty well right now. Actually, there's one, the pandemic's kind of smacked it. But I started Bulletproof, I started a neuroscience company called 40 Years of Zen. By the way, that's how I got the voice on my head controlled. 5 days with neuroscientists performance tuning my brain. Okay, that works. So then after 40 Years of Zen, there's TrueDark, the company hacking sleep. Why? Because I had to hack my own sleep. So these are the things that really needed to work. And I've got a probiotic company that makes a mold spray called Homebiotic. And all these companies are growing and performing. How the heck can I do that and be a New York Times author and a podcaster and a dad and a husband? It's because I stopped wasting time on the voice in my head telling me to eat crap I don't want to eat, telling me that, oh, you should be afraid of this, you should be reactive to this. I've got most of it hacked, and I'm hacking the rest of it as we go along. You want to be an entrepreneur and a good human being? You got to not react out of fear. You got to not start your company out of greed. You have to start out of a desire to serve others, because it's biologically easy to do that. It puts you in a flow state. If you start out of, I'm going to just take my little piece, you might make money. You might even get rich, and you'll still be an asshole, and you'll feel like one, and you'll know it when you go to sleep at night. And that's what it comes down to.
I love it. Let's talk quickly about working out really fast.
Okay.
Working out. How do you maximize the ROI of a workout?
Oh, man. Well, know that there's only two kinds of exercise, and we've done them forever. One of them is you run away from or towards things. The other one is you pick up rocks. Now, way back in the day when paleo was a thing, I went on paleo hacks or something. And this was as I was just creating the field of biohacking. And I said, look, I hate to tell you guys, but my army of biohackers is coming with lasers, and we're going to take your caves because you haven't embraced technology, right? And we can actually have mass spectrometers. We can measure our food. We can extract things we want, and we can exercise better than you. So I started a company called Upgrade Labs. It's down in LA. We're at the Beverly Hilton, where all the Golden Globes are hosted and things like that. And we're in Santa Monica next to the Bulletproof Cafe. And all the tech that I bought for myself, $1 million worth of tech to upgrade my biology to test things out like that, it's there. And the principles behind it is when you have a $150,000 chamber that changes atmospheric pressure and up and down. This isn't even hyperbaric. This is a different animal than that. That's pretty cool. But you're like, Dave, unless I live next door to that place and I want to write a check, that's not relevant. So here's what's going on. What your body responds to is the slope of the curve. In other words, if you get up on a plateau, hey, I'll go for a long, slow jog. It doesn't do anything good for you other than increase your risk of injury and make you tired and teach your heart to move less blood in a pump. If instead you sprint for 20 seconds like you're going to die, and then resting your heart rate down as fast as possible, and then do it again. I just interviewed a guy on Bulletproof Radio who, an exercise physiologist from University of Colorado, and he proved flat out you get better cardiovascular results from doing 2 20-second intervals in 7 minutes than you do from a 45-minute spin class. So it's the slope of the curve. And when it comes to putting on muscle, there's so many hacks you can do now. And there's a couple that I really like. One is there's a piece of gear called Tonal, Tonal, that lets you're fighting a computerized winch instead of using gravity, which produces much better results. And is it all right if I pitch one more thing? I'm not trying to sell any of my stuff.
Go for it. I love it.
Stuff. There's something called blood flow restriction. And this is you can get little straps on Amazon for $50 or something that do it, but you have to have the right pressure around your arms and your legs. And then you can pick up a 5-pound weight and you do very, very mild, moderate, like barely a workout sort of thing. But you work out when there's no oxygen in your limbs. And it causes this massive response when you let the blood flow again. It doesn't hurt or anything like that, but you get a little bit sore, but you put muscle on and you get metabolically way healthier than you would be. So it's sort of like holding your breath and running instead of not holding your breath. It's much more difficult, but you don't feel the pain of it because it's just in your arms and legs. I do a quarterly curated box. This is just for fans. It's not a major line of business for me. DaveAspreyBox.com. And if people want to, the high-end, like medical grade blood flow restriction stuff, I have it on good authority that it's in the box, and the box is $100, but these things are $400 alone, and they might be in there. So if that's something you want to try, that's just a way to save a few $100, and it's worth it. And it's shipping in like another week or something like that. But blood flow restriction, you can Google it. There's lots of data on that. You can do resistance band training, which is at least as good as weights, and body weight exercises. It's not that hard, but I have abs. I have biceps. I don't look like a bodybuilder, but I look probably a little bit more like a swimmer. And I still have stretch marks. Like, I have had my shirt off in Men's Health. I am a computer hacker and I'm 48. Like this does not compute in my world still. But the amount of exercise that I do, whole body vibration is the other thing. In the mornings, this is about $1,500, Bulletproof Vibe. Again, I make stuff that I use that works. You don't have to buy my brand of stuff. Mine is vetted and whatever, but this is the thing you stand on, and you can drink your coffee while you do it. You can do resistance band. You can do blood flow restriction, which I've been doing lately. But you stand on the thing and it vibrates 30 times a second, and it convinces your body that you just did 30 jumps or 30 whatever's little squats. So you're tricking yourself into thinking you did more than you actually did. So your body will respond. So all of these things I just told you, even just air squats, it's all about rapid input to the body followed by rest. It's not about long sustained suffering, which is the way we used to think it had to be. And also a lot of entrepreneur mindset people, you're going to burn the candle at both ends. Then when I used to do personal coaching, and I've coached some billionaires, and man, they're all the same. I'm going to start these 3 companies. I'm going to fly to my board meeting in Europe. I'm going to win the Kona Ironman. And then, I'll yacht somewhere. And so let me guess, your testosterone is low, your libido is low, and you can't sleep. And they're like, how did you know? Like, well, because you're overtrained. Like, you can't hit the weights and the cardio every day and be jet lagged and have constant emotional and just a mental work. A normal CEO uses as much energy as a quarterback. And there's data to support this. There's cognitive demand, there's physical demand. And so it's like, you got to rest, you got to recover. And this is the deal for entrepreneurs. You push really hard, then you sleep like a machine, or you take a couple hours and you just go for a walk. And the discipline to do that is very hard, even for me. But when you do that, you will perform better as an entrepreneur. And if you fall into that trap of just like work, your return per hour of work is too low. It doesn't work.
We'll wrap up with this question, and if you're okay, just to take a couple of questions that people wrote in. Now that we're all working from home, COVID, the situation's in there, what advice do you have for entrepreneurs or people who are stuck at home trying to figure out how to stay healthy, whether it's go out and get some fresh air and some sunlight? What are your recommendations?
For COVID?
For people who are now stuck at home in order to want to stay healthy and
stay healthy. All right. Well, it's very interesting. Most of the stuff that has been used against all types of viruses, including the common cold, which is caused by a similar family virus to the current, coronavirus stuff. It's very well known in functional medicine, integrative medicine, and that kind of world, what to do to reduce the incidence of those things. And all of those things that have been shown to work and do work that are natural therapies, literally the videos talking about them get taken off the internet right now. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. So the stuff like taking your vitamin C and taking zinc, we've been hearing this every cold season for the past 25 years, but we can't say it this cold season. There is no reason for that. In fact, I will tell you, if you switch search engines, you'll magically start seeing it again. And you know which one I'm going to tell you not to use? The one that has 2 letters that are the same. Right. And I've become a fan of something called DuckDuckGo, because none of the research I do works anymore in the big search engine, because I try to do it and all they do is they regurgitate stuff in health magazines. And when I want to find the real studies, they're not there anymore. And if you want to find the good videos, they're not there anymore. So your vitamin C and your zinc, yes, they work. There's an herb called andrographis, which is the one with the most research behind it for reducing the very specific type of inflammation that this thing, that COVID causes, called IL-6. There's a whole episode of Bulletproof Radio on IL-6, which is what causes the inflammatory cytokine storm. So if you're worried about getting this thing, take your vitamin C, take your zinc, and for people who are really, really worried, you want to spend $30, you can get one of these. It is a pulse oximeter. It measures something called SpO2. And if you get hypoxic because the virus is breaking down the hemoglobin in your blood, what you do then is if you're under 90, go to the hospital. If you're above 90, you should really be working on your mitochondria. I did write a book about that, but you got to make sure that you have enough oxygen. Since your oxygen carrying capacity goes down when you have COVID, you got to make sure your metabolism works. Ketones are very powerful for that. Did I mention fasting? Did I mention MCT oil? Gee, I guess I did. There's really good reason to have your MCT oils during this time. And whether you put them in a smoothie, you pour them on your salad, or you put them in your bulletproof coffee, I don't really care. But that is something that really, really is meaningful for staying healthy right now.
Perfect. So a couple of questions. Well, someone wrote, MCT oil actually makes me have extreme fatigue.
For that person, I would say which brand of MCT oil, because there's 4 different kinds of MCT oils that are out there. And the most common MCT, these are different sizes of oils in a category. The most common one doesn't do anything special, but it escorts toxins across the blood barrier. So you go to the store, it says MCT. In fact, one of the brands that knocked me off is primarily lauric acid, which is not something that I would recommend that you do. So there's that. And the other thing is you may have chronic yeast and chronic candida, in which case MCT oil is actually knocking that out, which is going to make you tired. Activated charcoal usually helps people feel better when that happens. Awesome.
Is it basically intermittent fasting that you're talking about, if I understand correctly? Are you not just entering into another binge phenomenon? Is it sustainable? And what are the data on following it and effects on digestion?
Oh, beautiful. Okay. The very first set of data on this came out in 2014 when I wrote the Bulletproof Diet. It was just entering the research phase. I'm like, I've tried this, and it works without and it works with. And now, God, there's so much evidence for fasting. And that's the new book that I'm working on. Comes out sometime early next year. But yes, there's thousands of studies on fasting. And if you're saying it's unhealthy, we have Ramadan, where people have been doing this forever. And we look at their data and it shows improvements. And a lot of different faiths had a day of fasting or a day of meat avoidance and things like that. So it has been a part of every tradition around the world going back forever. And it isn't a binging phenomenon. You eat the same amount of calories you would normally eat. You just eat it in a narrower period of time. And the deal is you show the body, hey, you should be able to run when you don't have any food in your stomach. And it says, oh, I guess I'll get stronger metabolically. And then you show the body, don't worry, it's not a panic mode. There is enough food. But it's not that, oh, I made it till 2 p.m. I'm going to have ice cream for lunch and beer and pizza for dinner. Frankly, you could do that and you'd still be better off. But if you eat normal foods or healthy foods during that afternoon, it's not a binge phenomenon at all. It's the same amount of food. It's just you didn't have it in the morning.
Awesome. So we'll end here. Every entrepreneur doesn't really focus on mindset. I find that really weird how mindset's become a big thing, and now people are starting to realize the importance of it. How important is your body to being an effective business person, to being an effective entrepreneur?
It is the most important thing you can have. Willpower itself. So the book Headstrong is, I talk very specifically about the studies that show this. Everything you do is powered by air plus food equals electrons. And it's the same electrons that are in your phone. It's exactly that way. So if you suck at turning air and food into electrons, you will have less willpower. You'll have less ability to fold your proteins, to make neurotransmitters, to go across the synaptic junction, all the stuff that to love, to hate, to fear, to strive, all of the things you do as a human being, to snore, it doesn't matter. All of it is powered by that reaction. 48% of people under age 40 have early onset dysfunction in that system. And everyone over age 40 who's not on an aggressive anti-aging regimen has dysfunction in that system. We call it aging. And so that's how important it is. Your willpower is directly a measure of how good you are at turning air and food into electrons. And that's it.
Love it. Dave, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks,
And
Jason.
can't wait to watch you live to 180.
All right. I hope you beat me.
Thanks,
man.
Dave.